go to the layer menu and duplicate this image. So I'm just going to create a duplicate because I want to use it later. I want to combine the effect with the original, or maybe a blurred version of the original anyway. Now, with that selected, what you do, go up to Filters and Sharpen and Clarity. With this, let's just bring the panel up there, and you can see you can modify the strength, and you can see as you do that, brightens up a bit there, brightens there, but it does make it slightly sharper, maybe about 50%, 60%, it's just about right. However, you can push it to 100%. Unfortunately, you can't push it to 200% or 300%. That would be brilliant. But you can also just click Apply at this point. Now, applied it, but you can also go up here, Repeat Clarity. So you can just apply it multiple times at 100%. Now, you can see straight away what's happened with that. You've got a bit of noise coming in here. Becomes sort of like chunkier. Best way to describe it, I think. Apply it a couple of times and you can see you can apply it. And I'm just going to use the shortcut, but I'll just quickly show it. And you can see you get some real... Now, obviously, if you've probably got the most perfect picture without any imperfections in it at all, you might not get this effect at all. You might get absolutely the smoothest image all the time. However, you can see with my one, it's obviously not so perfect. And I'm using that. So again, now it does crash. So I would suggest that you save your work. If you're doing some other work earlier and you might actually at some point before you do too many of these, just save it at a certain point, because repeating does have a tendency to cause Affinity Photo to, on my machine anyway. You might be fine, but you can see the effect now. Multiple copies and you've got this really not so much there on a face or anything, but just around the edge with all that, obviously that shadow. Well, you can also maybe go here to Filters, apply other effects as well. So filters, maybe Gaussian blur, but motion blur is pretty good as well. So motion blur, I like motion blur. For quite a while I just didn't want to use it. I don't know why, I use Gaussian blur, but it's actually quite useful because of course it does have the addition of rotation. And you can make it go off in that direction, this direction, whatever, which something obviously you can't do with Gaussian blur. And you can push it up to a fair reasonable. And then, of course, you can go back to clarity. Go to Filters and down to Sharpen and Clarity. I'm not certain why there's only 3 there. You think they'd put a few more. However, 100% again, click Apply. And again, repeat, and you can see now what happens. You've got these lovely lines going across, and obviously you can change the direction. You can apply the effect again, have it go in a different direction. All possible, but it's just great for creating this. So repeat. Now you can also use it with color channels as well. View menu, studio, and color channels. But you can see now I've got 2 layers here, so I can blend as well. So I can just go here, say darken, so you can see the original, and there multiply again with that. Maybe lighter color, and you can run through those. And also, what you can do, you don't have to keep the original as it was. So I'm just going to deselect that now. There's the original. Select that layer. Make sense you select it. No point using the other one. And again, you can go to Filters. This time I'm actually going to use Gaussian blur. I want to just blur the whole thing. So just blur it. Obviously it blurs the whole thing, but I just don't want any like direction involved. So I'm just going to blur it like that. Click Apply. And again, bring this one back. And you can see now, multiply it. You can run through that. And that creates even more unusual effects. You don't have to, of course, blur it. You could leave it absolutely as. You could, of course, use it without the other layer. Perfectly reasonable as well. Once you're happy with it, of course, I'm going to go with linear burn, light linear burn. So layer, and I'm just going to merge visible. So merge visible. Now you've got one complete layer with that effect. You can remove the other ones if you don't want those. Don't have to. Of course, you can still use them. You can still use this blend here with those if you want to. But again, you can always go back to Filters and this time go down to Sharpen, make sense, use that instead of the Gaussian blur, and you can apply it again. So apply, repeat, Command F, and again you can see as it gets more and more. And actually what happens, unfortunately, when you push it really to extreme, you can see you start getting this sort of red streaks in there as well. Well, obviously the image probably was pretty slightly red anyway. So you might get blue, I suppose, in a different one. If you've got a blue image to start with, slightly blue image, you'll start to see colour coming into it. And again, you can continue with that. But of course, you can also, if you want to, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and maybe go for black and white if you want it to be completely black and white. And again, that's what I'm going to do. Black and white. So it's black and white like that, sort of like a charcoal drawing. So it becomes like charcoal. And again, close that. And you can also flatten it. So Layer, Merge Visible, so it all becomes one layer. And again, you can continue to work with it. Maybe, like I say, just go to Filters, go here, Blur, and let's go for Motion Blur. Motion Blur obviously going off in that direction. Well, you can change it. You can change your mind. And you can see now it goes off in that direction. Click Apply. Again, Filters, Sharpen and Clarity. And this time, of course, you're going to get the streaks going sort of hatched. So repeat, repeat. Again, of course, apply it multiple times. And you can see the sort of rough textures. So you can create all kinds of textures. As before, it's a layer. You can modify the layers blending mode. So you can just go over here and you can say, you know what, I want darken instead. Or maybe colour burn. Or maybe go for a lighten. And you can run through these. So let's just go through this one and overlay. But my favourite, I think, is Hard Mix. Creates a nice sort of threshold effect. So you've got this lovely texture here. But also you've got some surreal ones, which is like difference. I mean, difference creates a real sort of like, I'm not even certain what it is. It's the best way to describe it. It's sort of oil paint sort of smeared on, very unusual effect. Exclusion and so on. So you can run through those and try the other ones out. But again, for me, for the texture effect, I think the Hard Mix is great. And of course, you can then continue to work with this, maybe apply additional motion blurs, etc. And then again, clarity again, to develop even more texture in this design. Though you probably can push it too far that you end up with hardly seeing the image at all. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Thank you much.